Hi guys, my name's Alana. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you haven't noticed, I have changed the name from Cosmic Wanderer to That Grunge Girl. I decided to change it. My other channel used to be called That Grunge Girl, but because that channel is dedicated to mental health, because I have two YouTube channels and it was starting to get a bit confusing. So now I have the first channel, which is called Mental Health with Alana, and that is linked to my Instagram page, which is my mental health Instagram, which is also called Mental Health with Alana. And then this channel here is dedicated to all things 90s and fashion and beauty related, and so this channel is being renamed from Cosmic Wanderer to That Grunge Girl. And I have my Instagram, which is also called That Grunge Girl, which is linked to this YouTube channel. Everything is linked down below in my link tree if you want to check that out. I also have a new business called Care Boxes by Alana, which I will be launching and discussing on my other channel. To get into the video, what is Kinderwhore fashion? This is a fashion that I really only started to know about in the past few years, and it goes along with my style really well because I really like dressing in the kind of just classic grunge 90s look, and this is kind of just like a spin-off of that, and it also is, you know, using a lot of the items in your wardrobe that you would already have if you already kind of dress in that early 2000s or like grunge 90s aesthetic, which I already do. Like I say in nearly all my videos, I like to try to make this really accessible to people, so don't go and spend a bunch of money if you don't want to. Like, if you do, that's fine, but I always like to keep things cost affordable. I like to keep it, you know, reusing clothes that I already have, buying clothes secondhand from online, from, you know, Depop or even Facebook Marketplace, or going to thrift stores in your area. I don't have many where I live because I live in a small town and it's not very accessible, but I do go and look sometimes and can find some rare items. But yeah, and also don't feel bad if you want to buy new clothes. I do that as well. So I have some notes here, I'll be looking down at it, but Kinderwhore fashion is a style based off the 90s. It's kind of a spin-off or a mix of the Lolita aesthetic mixed with the 1940s clothing, and also obviously the 90s kind of grunge era. So the reason why I say the 1940s as well is because the baby doll dresses, which I'll be going into in a minute, but a lot of the dresses and clothing styles actually do go back to the 1940s. If you have a look at the different clothing styles, what they wore, this aesthetic is a kind of feminine and kind of more womanized version of the 90s grunge, because when we look at the 90s and we look at the culture and we look at, you know, the grunge scene and the music that was coming out at the time, you'll often think of bands like Nirvana, for example. This is just a band I'm coming up with, first band that popped into my head, but there's plenty of other ones, they're not the only ones, but they would, you know, wear that very classic, just because they were mostly men, so they were just wearing jeans, baggy boyfriend jeans, kind of ripped jeans, you know, random like t-shirts, just whatever shirt they wanted, and then sometimes like a denim jacket or like a flannel top, Converse shoes, maybe Doc Martens. That was kind of the extent, and because it was mainly dominated by this music scene was mainly dominated by men at the time, women started to get into this music and say, hey, wait on a minute, I want to be in a rock band, I want to play electric guitar, and I want to get up on stage and rock out and have a good time. And so they kind of mixed all of these, you know, more feminine aspects of clothing and made it more grunge and adopted it more for the female style. So this style did come about in the 1990s, but it was more the mid-1990s. I would say around 1994 was when it really started booming, and this is because of a girl called Kat. I cannot say her last name. I will put a picture of her up on the screen with her name. She was from a band called Babes in Toyland, and you probably heard of it. It was quite a popular band at the time, and it still is, but she actually, well, allegedly, I'm not sure if this is actually true, but I'm pretty sure her and Courtney Love from the band Hole they are actually roommates in the early 1990s. And so Courtney Love is also another person who you really will see who started dressing in this kind of Kinderwhore style and aesthetic. But yeah, they were actually roommates apparently. And yeah, in about 1994, the Kinderwhore look really started booming when obviously the front singer of the band Hole, Courtney Love, and then Kat from Babes in Toyland really adopted this look and started dressing in this very kind of riot girl, grunge, feminine aesthetic. So when we look at the Kinderwhore fashion style, you will see clothing items such as torn, ripped tights. You will also see some low-cut kind of baby doll dresses. This is what I was talking about with the 1940s. It kind of throws it back there. In the 1940s, you definitely saw baby doll dresses started coming out. But more as undergarments, whereas now with the Kinderwhore aesthetic, they were taking clothes that were more considered almost like underwear, like bralettes, baby doll dresses, slip dresses. They were taking those items that were kind of more sexy and bringing it as a clothing style that was just worn on stage or wore in a general kind of lifestyle sense. So yeah, baby doll dresses, Peter Pan collars were really, really in, and Peter Pan, collars on dresses, the really big frilly collars. You saw a lot of lace. Knee-high socks started to really come back in, particularly socks that had frills. That was very common, and you would often see people wearing very heavy, like kind of black eye makeup. And kind of like the smoky eye look kind of started coming in, and minimum face makeup, just a bit of blush, and then normally like red lipstick, and quite bold red lipstick would also be worn as kind of like the makeup. Other things that sometimes you would see people wearing were necklaces kind of like this, like pearl necklaces. Other things could just be like chains, locket necklaces, kind of just like very simple jewelry. Like I was saying before, bralettes were a thing that would often be worn under dresses. As for shoes, you would usually see either high heels or you would see Mary Jane shoes. Doc Martens were also common, and combat boots just in general, or just leather boots, just whatever, black boots. It didn't have to be Doc Martens or anything, but Doc Martens also were a thing. Other things that would be accessorized like with the outfit would be fur coats. So you would sometimes see like leopard print coats, fake fur coats, like black coats. Leather jackets were also something that was sometimes used as, I think because this scene was came out of Seattle. Seattle gets really cold in winter. So the reason why it was kind of a more layered look was probably just due to practicality. And so that was most likely the reason, is because it's cold. But you can adapt to this style if you live in somewhere where it's cold or more hot. I live in a climate where it's generally more humid and hot and tropical, so I will adapt this style to fit me and how I would dress normally. If you live somewhere it's cold, you can layer it. If you live somewhere it's hot, you can just remove the jacket and still wear the same look and it will work. It's very versatile. The hair was very messy, kind of like in, think back when you were a kid and kids had like the two ponytails, or like one ponytail with kind of like ringlets. It was very like childlike aesthetic mixed with kind of sexy feminine you know, clothing. The other things that you would see was, you'd see colors that were very light, like pastel pink, cream, you know, grays, and then you'd see it mixed with very black, like stark colors, so very dark colors, and then you'd have reds thrown in, and just those dark colors that would kind of throw it out a bit. But this fashion was more than just a clothing style or just like an aesthetic. It was more of a political movement, because it was a way that women were trying to push back against gender stereotypes and the stereotype that only men can play rock and roll and only men can be in the music industry. And it was, I mean, it still is, especially in rock music, but it's come a long way. But it was really suited towards men, and men were dominating as musicians and lead singers of bands and stuff like that. So often, if you look back at a lot of the bands, it was mainly more men than women. And I mean, it still is now, even in the rock industry, but I think women were finally starting to see that, wait, we can actually do something different, and we don't have to just follow what we're being told of women can only dress in this certain way, you have to be all prim and proper. They were like, oh, we can actually push against this and play really loud music and play electric guitars and jump around on stage and scream and, you know, create lyrics that are really expressive of our emotions and explain like the things that we face as women that's going to be different to what you may face as a man. So it really put a more sexualized twist on women's fashion, and even with the music, and it really started to come out, and it pushed against a lot of the past ideas of what was considered ladylike and feminine. So that's why you would see with the clothing maybe bralettes and things starting to come out and become more acceptable to wear. And you know, they really just wanted to kind of shove it in the face of people who thought women should act a certain way. So the name Kinderwhore wasn't really called that at the time, but it was kind of coined by a journalist called Everett True. I think she was the one who kind of started this name, and it kind of became more of a thing that was used by the media just to describe the fashion and the style and the bands that were on at the time. The movement was really self-empowering women and girls, and encouraged them that yes, girls can play electric guitar and they can scream on stage and they can have an opinion and do what they want. And it was a way of getting attention, and it was really a statement to the world. And a lot of the songs that were, you know, came out at the time, if you listen to a lot of the songs by Hole that Courtney Love wrote, Babes in Toyland, there's another band, it slipped my mind, it starts with G, I can't think of it right now. I'm going to be putting some names of bands on the screen now, but a lot of these bands, they had a lot of really interesting lyrics in it, because it was all based around, you know, things that women had been facing that was really shoved in the dark, and then it started to really come out in these lyrics and in the music. So that is the Kinderwhore style and aesthetic. I hope this kind of gave you a bit of an idea of where it came from, what it was. You know, if you want to dress in the Kinderwhore style, what type of clothing items you may want to find or start using. I'm going to be making a whole outfit video, another one. I do have one on my channel, but I'm going to be making a new one, which is going to have a lot of outfits and looks from it. So make sure you check that out. If you want to follow my social media, I'll put it here up on the screen. Like I said, everything's down below my link tree. Make sure you press that red subscribe button and give me a thumbs up for this video. If you have any other aesthetics or styles you want me to cover, I don't just do 90s stuff here. I will do other aesthetics. I was thinking of doing a fairy grunge video, since that seems to be something that people are really dressing in, and cottagecore. So I thought I might do a video talking about that. If you want to see anything else, comment down below and I will make sure I get to it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.